Hello. So, Nebula is Hero of the Month, and I've been meaning to do a video about this. I actually did a video about Nebula probably almost 2 years ago. It's been a long time, but I did a video about her, like a whole profile video about her. This just kind of be like kind of like an updated one because couple of significant things have happened with Nebula since then, and we'll talk about it. But let's just start with basics here. Nebula. Myriad of stars are falling towards their oblivion. Thoughts create new planets and races. Ideas are embodied into matter. They die and reappear, transforming the despair of death into the joy of rebirth. Nebula knows her war will never be over, for it ensures the welfare of the whole universe. So she's a support hero and a healer. She's a support healer, and her main stat's agility. She fights in the middle line. One thing about Nebula is that we should talk about her skills, but she's very line dependent because of her equilibrium skill. This buffs the hero directly in front of her and directly behind her. Or no. Yeah, like the equilibrium, like buffs them front and behind her. She gives a strong physical attack buff and an even stronger magical attack buff to the heroes adjacent to her. This is like the main thing. She doesn't really have damage herself. Instead, she boosts the heroes next to her. She also has, like, let's see, her ult here. This is about one of her fewer damage abilities. It does some damage, and it's also drains energy from the enemy team, like who it hits. Like, and you can actually manual it. Like, if you play in a manual, you can actually click on her to cause it to activate sooner, so it doesn't hit the very far back line if you want to take energy off the tank or the mid line. But it does get blocked by Ode to Serenity, so it's not as useful. It does a little bit of damage. Serenity, this is a healing ability. And if you have her Ascension skill, Absolute Serenity, also gives like a debuff, protects against debuffs for 4 seconds. So it's actually pretty good. Then you got her Disarming. This is another damage dealing ability. Just damages the enemies with the lowest health. Not a whole lot of damage. It's like 100k at high levels, but I mean, occasionally she will get a kill with this, but don't count on Nebula for damage. Don't really count on her for healing either, but this does help protect against stage effects on adjacent heroes. It's not as powerful as Ode to Serenity or anything like that, or even Purifying Sphere from Celeste, but it is okay. And of course, we were talking about Equilibrium. She has a bunch of skins. She has 2 physical attack skins, which are going to be the ones you want to focus on first, and you'd want to do the agility skin. Dodge is going to be the last one for her. She's like, that does help her, but this is easily her least important one. Like I said, you just do the physical attack, then agility, then spring skin last. The dodge does help. If she gets attacked by a physical attack, it does give her a chance to evade, but she's not up on the front line, so dodge isn't as relevant for her as it is for like a tank such as Aurora. Obviously physical attack. See, items, pretty basic agility hero stuff. Glyphs, she has physical attack, agility, those are the ones you want first. Then you'd probably want to do like armor, magic defense, and then health last. In a lot of cases, I do recommend against raising health, but in Nebula's case, you probably do want the health on her, and I'll explain why in a bit. Said you got Gift of the Elements. It's agility based, so pretty standard. She does buff physical attack with her theme, which honestly for her is actually better, but it's not a particularly great buff, but it does help boost her equilibrium ability a bit when she uses it, so that's good. This is a dodge artifact, gives her some health, gives her some evasion, and then of course her ring. Like for most people, you probably want to do her weapon and her ring first, like in the book last. This will give her, like I said, if you max out the agility ring, it gives her a huge boost to her physical attack. So this, honestly, for most people, this might be the one you want to go with. But this is okay too, but physical attack is kind of one of the weaker buffs in the game. But with Nebula does have some benefits. And then she has some Ascension abilities. Like Nebula's Ascension is actually really relevant because she has this ability here called Absolute Serenity, as we just expressed. This gives a buff to her Serenity ability, because Serenity ability can remove status effects and cure, but the Absolute Serenity also puts increases the healing, as well as also protects against status effects for 4 seconds, so just a much better ability. And if you can ever get her to rank 5, this gives her the It makes your astral projection more powerful. Like, increases it. Right, grants the balance effect to 2 allies, boosts their physical attack, magic for 5 seconds. So it just gives, like I said, it's just a nice buff. Like, this does add quite a bit of damage. It's deceptive. It can be really deceptive in how powerful this could be. Because it's actually a pretty decent ability, but it is a nice bonus. But the problem is, getting to Nebula to Ascension Rank 5 is kind of hard because she wants the same materials as Sebastian and Isaac, and well, they definitely have priority over Nebula, so Nebula needs more time because you're going to be putting your kindness insignias into Sebastian and Isaac way before Nebula, so Nebula's kind of, she has to wait her turn. It is what it is, but that is kind of how it works. But you can usually get the Absolute Serenity with just the lower tier green crystals. You won't need the kindness insignias. But this is definitely a good ability. It's not, like I said, not a replacement for Sebastian or anything, but it is a good ability. But probably the main key with Nebula, though, is that she is super important for guild raids. She is part of the Stone Cold line. And this part of the reason why I didn't record this video is because I'm kind of waiting for this, the guild raids to be up. Like I said, we still have, like I said, we're Saturday now, so we have the guild raids up. But you see, like, this is, these first 4, I did first 150 boss. This one I did first 160 boss. See me doing a lot of damage. Nebula, of course, doesn't do a whole lot of damage on her own. She's right there on the bottom, but she's super important for buffing up heroes next to her, in which case, Ju and Sebastian. And she does add little tiny bit of healing. But this is kind of like the main use for Nebula. Like, when I did my previous video, like Nebula, like the line pen here, I kind of talked only about her use for PvP because she was pretty useless for PvE. There wasn't a reason to use her for PvE until they added Asgard. Like, Asgard definitely changed her. She has all those Asgard abilities. Like, definitely has increased her value quite a bit overall, mostly just because you need her for PvE. She's okay in PvP. She's not like top tier or anything, but she's a decent PvP hero. But for guild raids, though, she's, the 5th most important hero to have. Like, Isaac and Sebastian and Ju, those are the 3 that really matter. Like, Nebula is the 5th most important. Like, Martha's the 4th. Like, there's like a rank, like I said, you'd rank them that way. Like, if you don't have Nebula developed yet, like, you can use Jet or like Thea or something in place of her to try to give your team a bit more survivability. To get them a bit more damage, like I said, it was before I was able to actually have Isaac strong enough to survive 160 team, I was able to use Thea to get like 20 million plus in some of these lines. I think my best, like, about 28 million with Thea, maybe even 30 million. Like, in Jet can also do similar things. I don't have Jet developed, but other people have reported similar things. Jet, you can, like, kind of as a poor man's replacement for Nebula, if you happen to have like a Thea or Jet developed, you can replace Nebula in this line for them. Like, it will not be nearly as effective, but it is kind of like a stopgap, at least till you can get your Nebula developed. But you do want the health maxed out. That's why I was saying about health being on Nebula, like, because a lot of times she will die to the meteors. Having more health helps keep her alive. Like, on 160 boss, like, even my Sebastian's pretty much completely, totally maxed. His health is not going to get any higher unless they add a health skin to him. And he died here. He died in this one, which actually hurt my DPS here. And it's kind of there's a lot of randomness. The meteor showers target randomly. They're random targets, so sometimes you just get lucky, and sometimes you just have a bunch of meteors hit the same person, and then they die. Like, even with Axel here, like, if you're, like, super uber powerful, you can use Albus here to do more damage. Albus teams do more damage. Axel, probably better for most people, because it does make you a bit more consistent, but, like, if you're, like, have all your stuff, like, maxed or whatever, and your heroes aren't dying that much, like, you can get away with using Albus instead of Axel. But I do think Axel's probably going to be better for like 99% of you for the 160 boss. But yeah, no, just Nebula, easily the best 5th hero between Ju and Sebastian. Like, that's kind of like the core, though, like, is you have Isaac, like I said, so Sebastian and Ju do so much damage. Like, Sebastian, he is top DPS, but he died early. Like, he did 30 million damage, and he died halfway through the fight. Like, he has the best damage potential. That's why you put Albus on him. Fenris on Jew. Like, Fenris really doesn't do a whole lot for Jew. Like, it raises the physical attack a little bit. The armor penetration doesn't matter since Isaac's always spamming the armor penetration buffs with his ult, so not a big deal. But Nebula, like I said, she is the best 5th hero for the raid boss setup. But PvP, like, you can use her. Like, she's very, very line dependent, so it's like just kind of like in the guild raids. Like, if you're using Nebula, like, who you put in front or behind her matters a lot. And because of the way the lineups are, like, Sebastian always sits right behind her, so this does make her a lot more awkward to use with the mage team, since you usually have to give up Serenity Protection, which is kind of non-viable in most teams. The best you can do is, like, you can do her with, like, Celeste. Sometimes you can get away with, like, a Celeste and Orion. Like, if you're going to cut Sebastian, I have seen, like, Celeste and Orion, but because the Sebastian sits right behind Nebula, this actually kind of limits Nebula's usefulness in PvP. Even though Nebula buffs magic attack far more than she buffs physical attack, Sebastian sitting behind her, honestly, kind of limits her. I mean, it's good for certain things, like guild raids or whatever, like, because Sebastian does benefit from her in physical attacking teams. But in non-physical attacking teams, like having Sebastian getting buffed by her, not nearly as good. Because now because like the magic damage, you'd rather have her next to that. But Sebastian's here between them, so Sebastian gets the buff instead of Orion. So that does make Nebula kind of awkward in a lot of teams. But yeah, like, if you want to know more, like, about, like, the guild raids and stuff, though, that's kind of, like, the main use people would have, check out my video about Stone Cold below. And as always, thank you for watching.